You've seen the majestic ruins of ancient civilizations, the shining temples of Athens, the towering pyramids of Egypt, the colossal arenas of Rome. We picture these worlds through marble statues, gods, and grand philosophies. But beneath all that glory was something far more personal: how people connected, loved, worshipped, and expressed power. What if I told you that ancient life was filled with rituals and customs so unusual they would make our modern world look tame? That the boundaries between the sacred and the social, between personal expression and public duty, were almost non-existent? Ancient societies weren't just about conquests and empires. They were built on beliefs about the body, the divine and human connection that shaped everything from religion to politics. In this video, we're opening the door on the hidden lives of our ancestors and discovering how their most private customs reveal who they truly were. The goddess's law, rituals of the temple. Our story begins in ancient Babylon, where the Greek historian Herodotus recorded a remarkable custom. According to him, every woman in the city, at least once in her life, had to visit the temple of the goddess Ishtar, the divine protector of love and fertility. There, she was expected to fulfill a sacred duty, symbolizing devotion and abundance. Herodotus claimed this practice involved offerings and symbolic gestures between strangers, representing the goddess's blessing on the land and people. However, modern scholars now believe the historian likely misunderstood what he saw. Instead of an enforced act, it was probably a ceremonial exchange, a dramatized ritual celebrating fertility and divine generosity. Regardless of the truth, this story reminds us how the ancients often wove personal intimacy directly into their religious experience. For them, the human body wasn't something shameful. It was a reflection of divine energy, the sin of chastity. When fertility was sacred. In much of the ancient world, the idea of purity looked very different from what we imagine today. To societies that depended on crops, rain, and childbirth, the ability to create life was the most sacred power of all. In cultures across Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Canaan, fertility wasn't a private matter. It was the heartbeat of civilization. Many ancient faiths believed human behavior could influence nature itself. Through festivals, rituals, and symbolic unions, people sought to keep the cycle of growth unbroken. To withhold fertility was to risk famine. To celebrate it was to honor the gods. What we might see as scandalous today was, to them, a form of worship, a spiritual way to ensure survival. Rome's dark theatre of power. As we move to the Roman Empire, the story takes a darker turn. In Rome, the connection between personal pleasure and political control reached unsettling extremes. The emperors, men like Tiberius, Caligula, and Nero, became infamous not just for their conquests, but for what they did behind palace walls. Ancient historians like Suetonius and Tacitus painted shocking portraits, emperors who blurred the line between entertainment and cruelty, using others to display their dominance. Whether or not every rumor was true, these tales reveal how absolute power could twist even the most personal parts of life into political theatre. For rulers, indulgence wasn't about pleasure. It was about proving that nothing, not even morality, could restrain them. Yet for the average Roman citizen, life looked very different. Most people followed a strict moral code that prized dignity, family loyalty, and self-control. What the emperors flaunted in secret, ordinary Romans condemned in public. The contrast showed how the empire's glittering image often hid deep cracks of corruption. The Greek mentorship paradox. Let's turn to ancient Greece, the cradle of democracy and philosophy, but also a place with customs that challenge modern values. Among the elite, mentorship between older men and younger boys was celebrated as a bond of education and civic training. The idea was that an elder would guide his pupil in politics, warfare, and philosophy. An arrangement said to prepare the youth for citizenship. But beneath the noble words lay troubling realities. Many such relationships carried expectations that blurred the line between teaching and control. Over time, Greek thinkers themselves began questioning this practice. Later writings by Plato and Athenian lawmakers condemned it, seeing it not as enlightenment, but as exploitation. This shift from acceptance to rejection, tells a powerful story. Even in the ancient world, moral evolution was possible. Cultures could challenge their own traditions and redefine what honor and respect truly meant. Festivals of the divine, when worship meant ecstasy. Imagine a festival where the entire city turned into a celebration of life itself, music, dance, and laughter filling the streets. In ancient Greece, Egypt, and Rome, such festivals were more than parties. They were spiritual events meant to awaken joy and gratitude. In Cyprus, the annual Aphrodisia honoured the goddess of love with parades, offerings, and public displays of affection. In Thrace and Athens, the nighttime festivals of the goddess Kotis featured ecstatic dancing meant to free participants from social constraints. And in Rome, the famous Bacchanalia, originally small, secret rituals to honour the god of wine, grew into such massive celebrations that the Senate eventually banned them, fearing they threatened public order. Even Egypt had the Festival of Drunkenness, where people reenacted an ancient myth of salvation through joyful chaos. These events reveal a world where spirituality wasn't quiet or restrained. It was passionate, loud, and vividly human. Magic, spells, and the power of desire. When reason failed, the ancients turned to magic. In the Greco-Roman world, people desperate for love or attention used spells known as defacciones, binding charms written on thin lead sheets. These invoked gods of the underworld to influence another person's emotions. Some spells pleaded for affection, others were more vengeful, asking spirits to bind someone's heart or mind until they returned the caster's feelings. Archaeologists have found hundreds of these tablets hidden in graves and wells, places thought to connect with the afterlife. Magic offered what society often denied: control. In a world ruled by fate and hierarchy, even the powerless could try to bend destiny in their favour. These spells remind us that love, obsession, and longing are as old as humanity itself. A different view. When pleasure meant balance. After so many examples of ritual and power, you might think ancient relationships were all extremes. But that's far from true. Some societies held remarkably healthy, balanced views of intimacy. On the Pacific island of Mangaia, young people received open education about affection and partnership. Both boys and girls were taught the importance of mutual satisfaction, respect, and communication. Virginity wasn't a social requirement. Understanding and generosity were. In central India, the Murya people practiced the Gotul tradition, communal dormitories where adolescents learned about relationships in a structured, respectful way. Rules emphasized consent and emotional maturity over possession or jealousy. These customs show that ancient cultures weren't universally oppressive or indulgent. Many valued connection, harmony, and shared joy. What ancient intimacy teaches us today? So, what were ancient societies really like behind closed doors? They were as complex, contradictory, and deeply human as we are today. Across empires and centuries, people used their most personal customs to express love, faith, fear, and power. Some turned intimacy into worship. Others weaponized it for control, and some simply celebrated it as one of life's greatest gifts. If there's one lesson from history, it's this: humanity has always searched for meaning through connection. Our ancestors used rituals and myths to make sense of the same emotions that still move us: desire, devotion, and the longing to be seen. Their world may be gone, but their stories remind us that the human heart, curious, conflicted, and full of wonder, has never changed. Which of these ancient traditions surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to uncover more secrets that history tried to hide, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started on the mysteries of the ancient world.